Awesome. So we're back again with Brandon. So this is episode 7 that I've done, and this is already the second time that Brandon's been on.
Yeah, I love
So
this.
it doesn't have to introduce himself or anything like that, but yeah, Brandon's obviously gonna be probably be a regular occurrence on these training talks because he loves getting involved, which is great. But yeah, today we're just going to talk about now that gyms are back open, what your approach should be going into the gym and what you should be looking for and what you shouldn't really be looking for when approaching your training and getting back into that same routine that you was in previously. So yeah, we've just had a bit of a brief chat. I mean, I've been preaching on my social media that you should take your time and ease yourself into it. And I've only done 2 half-an-hour sessions and I still feel beat. I don't know how you felt, Brandon.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, the same thing. Like I'll tell everyone, right? Everyone's kind of running the same sort of training program. I'm guessing your lot are as well. So even when they were at home, they were running full bodies or upper lowers and things like that.
Yeah.
Just keep running the same thing, but obviously just instead of squats, we're doing a leg press sort of thing. It's the same thing. I was like, guys, I know you can push this, but like strip it back, like 60 to kind of 80% sort of thing. But mate, we're the biggest hypocrites in the world. I was like, we just said it before. I'm like, right, I did 6 plates. I'm going to go in. Well, I did 6 plates 4 months ago. I can do it now, right?
Yeah.
But don't, in a sense, don't do that. But generally, like I would say for the first couple of weeks, just kind of just get used to the movements again. Like get used to kind of that technique, relearning the technique. And then after that, you should be fine to kind of just increase the weight over time, like anything, and then look for that progress again.
That's it. I mean, yeah, ego does come into play a little bit. I know we try not to, but like yesterday, a pull day is a really strong day for me. I've always had quite a strong back, and I was sat on the plate loaded row machine. I just put 2 plates on now. I'm just going to get that muscle working again because it's been a long time. Because I've only really had body weight. I've had like really small dumbbells at home, but that's been about it. And then I put 2 plates on it. I was like, oh, that's easy. I see it. So like straight back up to 4 plates, and then I'm feeling it today. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh.
But then it's funny because it's like, I think this is just when it comes down to like, the more you train and the more self-awareness you get, it's okay. Because like realistically, you put 4 plates on, you know you're going to be sore.
Yeah.
And that's okay. As long as you're expecting that. I think it's very different that like we've like, for example, you train legs in the past where you generally cannot walk. Like you go sit down on the toilet and you're like, this is sore. That's different when it kind of affects a week. But if you're kind of regular to training, you've pre-trained for like, even if you train for like a good kind of like anything from 6 months under really before, you should be okay to just kind of just drop back into it. But just don't pummel yourself into the ground. It comes down to self-awareness really.
Yeah. I mean, your training's probably stayed pretty similar because you've had a decent bit of kit at home. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. To be fair, I've had the weight, which is fine. But obviously now it's just getting used to isolating things a lot more.
Yeah.
So obviously I've definitely come out stronger. Like it's the same way I said when I got into hack squat, I was like, oh, this is really easy because you've been stabilizing with a bar for so long, like barbell back squat. So as soon as you get into something that's just going to just run it down and explode out, it's like, cool. But then it's just getting used to those mechanics again. And just getting used to isolating muscles. That's what I found the hardest thing. It's just even just machinery work. I'm like, say like quad extension or hamstring curls. You're like, Jesus, this is horrible. Like compared to like a banded leg curl sort of thing, it's very different.
Yeah, I mean, I was supposed to do legs today, but I think I'm going to take a rest day today.
Yeah.
And then going for legs tomorrow, just because I've done push pull and I was going to do legs like straight after, and I'm like, I think I might just wait a little bit.
What are you running at the moment, like training wise? What have you kept the same split in lockdown and then just transferred the same?
So it's been different. I mean, I've been doing like the bodybuilding style training, so similar training to you since I started when I was like 15, 16. And then over like the couple of months before lockdown actually started, I'd actually got fed up of bodybuilding. I started doing a lot more Metcon stuff. I think we spoke about it previously.
Yeah.
So that kind of transitioned nicely into the lockdown actually, because it just transferred into like a lot of bodyweight Metcons, a lot of running, like cleaning snatches and stuff like that, just with like light dumbbells. But then since coming out of lockdown, I mean, I've just got bored of the Metcon style training now because it's all been body weight. So it's almost sparked my fire again for bodybuilding training. And when I know I've only been in like 2 sessions this week already, but I'm so excited to train again.
Yeah.
So it's almost been like a blessing in disguise in regards to training. I mean, I look quite small now from all the Metcon training, but I'm just looking to put on some size now.
Yeah. And I think that's the crazy thing about everything is that when you've had a training background, again, it doesn't have to be a massive amount of time, but even if we were in lockdown for 4 months, if you were training 4 to 6 months before that, like muscle memory is a fucking great thing. It's unbelievable. Like if you think this is probably the only phase in our lives where we're going to be able to get like newbie gains again, like generally, it's just because obviously to rebuild muscle that's already been there is more effective or easier, I should say, than building new tissue.
Yeah,
so actually just slapping on a couple more pounds potentially is going to be quite an easy phase for the next couple of months, as long as it's done in a smart, controlled way. But yeah, and it's good though, because it is just that motivation thing, isn't it, more than anything now? I think we've all never been this buzzed to train ever.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So
I put a story up the other day, actually. I mean, even my clients are like just so excited to get back. And when you speak to your clients and then you're excited for your training as well, it's just like, you're like a little kid in a candy shop when you're going back to training again. it's really strange.
It's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same. It's just when you get voice notes messages from them and things like that, and they're absolutely buzzing. You're like, fuck, and you start buzzing for that as well. It's absolutely brilliant. And the crazy thing is, I think as well, we all thought I thought, oh God, going back to the gym and there's going to be rules and quarantine and all this kind of like COVID stuff. I thought it was being naff, but it's generally really good.
Yeah.
Like it's tidy, it's quiet, it's absolutely spot on. And I think because obviously a lot of people potentially a bit intimidated to come back to the gym still.
Yeah.
Because I went into like gym box in Central, and like Central London gyms dead, like super dead, obviously. Okay. Because no one lives in Central, so.
Got you.
But even we were like at Muscleworks yesterday, and it was just like, I think their capacity is 150 people, like until it's like 1 in, 1 out.
Yeah.
Dude, I've never seen 150 people in there ever, and I was training there for like 6 months before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's literally just a normal vibe.
Yeah. I think gyms are handling it really, really well. I mean, I've had to pay for a gym membership now for the first time in like 5 years. So I mean, I've just joined like Anytime Fitness just for the case it's 5 minutes up the road for me. So just convenience purposes. It's got everything I need. But I'd probably like venture out as well to like other places. But are you in like one specific place, or are you sort of juggling between different gyms at the minute?
I'm pretty much based at King's now, because there's like it's like a 15-minute walk. So pretty much I'll be based out there most of the time. But I do just want to go to Muscleworks like once a week. Purely just to honestly get out, change the scenery, things like that. And I think King's is a little bit stricter. They're like an hour and a half, and then you're out. Like they have a booking slot, and then they kick you out, sort of thing. But so if you want to train with someone and things like that, Muscleworks is probably the best option for that. But yeah, that's it. And but then it's just to run the normal training program, to be fair. So that hasn't changed. So
awesome.
Pretty straightforward on that.
It's interesting how like different gyms are doing it. I mean, I've got like a booked time slot that you have to do, but there's no actual specific time that you can stay for. Like they haven't sort of monitored that. So I could be there like 1 hour, 2 hours, be there all day if I wanted to from my slot. So it's quite interesting that you said that they've put like a time cap on it, because that makes a lot more sense, actually booking slots rather than the way that my place is doing it.
Yeah, that's what Gymbox did as well. They have like you book in your slot, but they don't kick you out. I think what it was kind of like they assume you're going to train for about an hour and a half, and then you'll be out. But all it does is just control the waves going in. That's what it seems like.
Got you.
But yeah, I don't know. But then every gym's doing it so differently. So then it clearly, like, there is kind of like, there's a baseline of rules, which was probably the basic rules, like make sure you put your equipment away, make sure you wipe stuff down.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it. I think that's the only thing that's been annoying me so far. It's like every time you use a bit of kit, every time you use a handle on a cable machine, it's like spray it down, wipe it down. It's like, then you're constantly carrying like anti-back around the gym.
At the end, it's so dry. It's disgusting.
That's it. I went to pick up a dumbbell, it just slipped out of my hand. Need to get some liquid chalk at the same time straight after.
Are you allowed to, that's the thing, are you allowed to use stuff like that now?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not.
No, it's one of those awkward things. It's like, oh yeah, and then you get kicked out for it.
And
what are you running your training program then? Are you just running a legs push pull sort of thing?
yeah, so I'm still getting used to, like I said, it's the first time I've kind of actually paid for a gym membership in a long time.
Yeah.
I'm still getting used to the different bits of kit at the moment, and then I'm just going to give it a couple of weeks, do a few rotations, use all the kit, and then I'll put like a bit of a plan in place. But it'll probably be around like a push pull leg split, and then probably do that once a week, and then I might do like an upper body, lower body, because I don't want to train at the weekends. Because Saturday's an all day check-in day for me. I have all of my clients on a Saturday. And then Sunday, I like to use Sunday as like my one day off for the week. So if I could do something like that, like a 5-day split, but without doing push pull legs twice, that'd be perfect for me.
Yeah. I need to get more of the habit of doing that, because my check-ins are like Sunday, Mondays, and then it's sometimes like training doesn't fall on those days. I'm like, perfect. Then when it does, you're like, oh crap. So, but yeah, potentially I need to look at doing that. I think this is one thing that people get quite confused at. I had a couple, because obviously I have like clients on a 2-week rotation sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then if they're doing 6 days a week, I'm like, well, it's not really a 2-week rotation. It's more like a 2.5-week rotation.
Yeah.
And I think people assume that they need to get all their training done in that week. But then I'm like, no, as long as the volume's done, potentially over the month and things like that, that's what matters. So if you were running like a 6-day training program, realistically, I don't want people training 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on. I want potentially 2 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off, or like 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off. So then that training program would actually be like 8-9 days. Yeah. And then you go into week 2 phase. So your training program is looking at 14 days.
Yeah.
And I think people get a little bit confused at that.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, it's not enough training. I'm like, it's plenty. That's it.
Yeah, it is. It's just putting those rest days in between to maximize your performance, isn't it? When you go back into that session.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I know I cannot do 3 days anymore. Like, I cannot do 3 days back to back. It wrecks me. Yeah. Especially if, like, I don't know for you, like my lower back just hates loading. Yeah. So like, I'm like legs, push, rest. Oh no, legs legs group, and then rest, push, and then pull. So like my legs and pull are almost like 4 or 5 days apart almost. Yeah. And that just works so nicely.
That's exactly the same as what I was doing when I was training like that before. I thought this week I was like, oh, because I'm going in light, I'll be able to do push pull legs all in a row. But quickly realised I need that extra rest day in there.
It's surprising, isn't it though? Yeah. That's it.
Because your legs will just be terrible.
Yeah, that's it. And it's just, mate, it's just like, there's nothing worse than going into a session, especially and you just know that you can, you know, especially when your head's there, but your body's just not allowing it. And it's all because you didn't train smart. Yeah. Because you just didn't space out your time and things like that. I think the biggest thing that it's just making sure your training's long term. Like, that's what it's all about. Like, to achieve a great physique or achieve any form of transformation, what you want to achieve, it's playing the long term game.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's like anything. It's the same with business. It's the same with whatever you do. It's just that long term game. And it's just making sure you have the right plan in place for that.
That's it. Yeah, I spoke to a lady yesterday. She was like, "Oh, put on about a stone, I think it was, during lockdown. I want to get it off as fast as possible." I was like, "It's the wrong way to approach it. You're going to go straight from no exercise to eating shit throughout the whole of lockdown, drinking all this alcohol, to sprinting it all off, burning those calories on like 1,000 calories. You might lose weight very, very fast, but you're going to put that straight back on afterwards." And again, it's like you've just touched on there, it's that longevity. You need to ease your way into your training. Like I've tried to preach, but obviously I've not done it myself. You got to ease your way into that calorie deficit again and just start creating those habits. But I mean, with your clients at the moment, have all of your clients actually had kit available? Is some actually had to do like body weight exercises during lockdown?
Not many, just body weight. I made sure they've all had bands of some sort. Purely just probably from my point of view, if I'm honest, just because I'm like with body weight, I'm like, we can do it, but a lot of the time, honestly, people don't have the patience to do tempo and things like that. And potentially the skill base to do tempo work. So actually it's just like, right, let's get some bands, have some resistance there, so you do have a bit of force. But most people have had I was quite surprised what actually people had. Like, some people have had like a couple of sets of dumbbells, nothing crazy, But then cool, we'll just pick up a band, a foam roller, and maybe some occlusion bands, like 50 quid off Amazon. But yeah, that's kind of it. Nothing crazy. Some of the odd ones have gone like I've got a gym set up, and you're like, fair play.
I've had that.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah, that's what I thought sometimes. But no, most people are kind of average kit, I would say, like home kit, like a couple of bands, things like that, but nothing crazy at all.
So how are those clients then transitioning from doing like banded work at home to the gym? What's that transition?
So pretty much from ground one, really, we obviously, my program was like, we will be in a gym. So 3 months ago, I was like, right, guys, we need to get a training program that's in place that's going to be like, I want almost this training program to be your gym training program.
Yeah.
So it was actually finding movements that we agreed with us, that we could connect with very well, that all this sort of stuff. So then we could be like, right, okay, cool. Split squats or elevated split squats aren't great for you. Bit of knee aggro there. So we know that's not going to go into the gym plan. Let's look at potentially just doing static, whatever it is. So pretty much they're running exactly the same training program, almost like now compared to what they were in lockdown.
Yeah.
Very similar concepts. So straight away, they don't even need to think too much about their training.
Yeah.
So if they're running an upper lower, they know the first exercise is back related. So it might be a pull down related movement. Cool. Yeah. So instead of like a door frame lat pull down, they're just going in for like, I don't know, like a D handle lat pull down. That's it. So really simple. Some of them want to train a little bit more. So then it's quite simple. Then from 3 days a week, you just go, cool, you're doing an upper lower full body. So now we're just going to run upper lower. Yeah. Really simple. So yeah, like most, like, you know what it's like for me, like my training's so simple, man. Like training programs, very simple concept.
Yeah.
Of course, training methods dropped in there, but mate, like the basics work all the time. And like, I'm just such a basic dude.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's the same. It's like, if you want to grow your chest, I'm like incline, flat, or decline, fly. Yeah. And that's it. Like you've got 4. Now let's just have some variations to them. Yeah. Whether that's rest pauses, drop sets, or something like that. And that's it. It's the same. It's like, how do you get really big back? Probably by doing a lot of damn rows.
Row. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it. And just, it's a really simple concept. Bodybuilding or building muscle and changing your physique is a very simple concept.
Yeah.
It's like when you drop calories or when you want to drop body fat, the only variables is potentially steps, cardio, and calories. Those are the only 3 things you manipulate.
Yeah.
Weight training stays the same. And it's the same for building. I'm like, cool. We just still sit, calories go up, training intensity's there, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's a gradual process, isn't it? And that's what a lot of people do. It's not a quick fix. It has to take time, and you have to be consistent with it. And the basics are amazing. I mean, one of my favorite movements is still like a barbell bench press. Yeah, and that's from back in the day. Like it's still the best movement that helps me grow my chest. I mean, it's definitely going to be incorporated into my new plan moving forward for sure.
Yeah, and that's it. And also as well, because you've done it for so long as well, you know that movement works well for you.
Yeah,
that's it. I think a lot of time with what people think is that if they don't feel the movement straight away, I'm like, oh, it doesn't work. I'm like, no, you actually need to like that. You're neurologically, your brain needs to get used to that movement.
Yeah.
So it's going to take you potentially 3 to 4 weeks to actually get used to that movement before you can progress with it.
Yeah.
And it's real simple. They're like, oh, I don't like, I'm like, it's like when you drive a car. I'm like, you don't like get in a car and you're like, oh, I could do this. It's like, no, it takes time to learn, and then it takes time to like get used to it. Even when you pass your test, you're like, you've learned how to drive, but you haven't actually, you've not been put as a PT qualification. Same thing. Like you're technically a PT, but I'm like, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you can actually coach someone.
Yeah.
It just means someone signed off, said that you're safe to coach someone.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're actually good at it.
Yeah, I did a podcast late last night actually with one of my trainers from my old PT club that I was managing, and we was talking about actually getting into the industry and what it's like, the qualifications, and what you actually need to do to kind of get into it and start to make a name for yourself. So yeah, we touched on the exact same thing. You don't learn. It's like what he said. Because he's doing his level 3 at the moment. So he's done his level 2. He's doing his level 3. And he was like, it's all built for one specific person. But as soon as you actually start coaching and start PTing people, every single person that comes your way is completely different. So yeah, it's exactly the same. You don't actually learn until you've passed it and started doing it yourself.
Yeah, that's it. And it's the same. It applies exactly the same to your training. It's the same thing. it's like, it's just, yeah, it's like if it, I just try and bring it back to training somehow. So it's like, if it is like a leg press sort of thing, it's going to take you a period of time to get used to that. And that's all it is. And then again, you just get better and better at it. So you get better at your craft.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you want to get better PT, you just have to build a reputation for you. You have to be just fucking good at what you do.
Yeah.
That's literally it. As soon as you're good at what you do, you'll get in more work. It's the same thing. Same as you become good at an exercise, you'll reap the results from it.
Agreed. And then it's exactly the same if you move gyms and you used to one leg press, but then you've got a slightly different one.
Yeah.
And that's why mechanics are completely different on the movement.
Yeah. And to be fair, that's probably where we're getting most of the DOMs from. Like, you're in a new gym as well. I am. It's a different leg press. It's a different kind of style. Even just how it's just, even the branding is that's straight away. It's a new machine. It's like Uncle Ben's rice tastes very different to Tilda rice. It's the same sort of thing, and it's the same with machinery and things like that. It's like Nike and Adidas. They're a shoe, but they wear very differently.
Yeah.
And this is exactly the same. So it's all these little things that will accumulate.
Yeah. What is your favorite branded piece of kit? Or is it different per machine?
I guess it depends per machine. But obviously, the gyms that I'm training, a lot of it's prime stuff, which is lovely. Some of the hammer strength stuff's really nice. I'm trying to think what Kings have really weird stuff. I don't even know what it is, but that's quite nice. It's all quite similar, but they've rebranded it as their own.
Okay.
So it actually have the logos on it of what it was.
Got you.
But if it's out of anything, Arsenal, hammer strength, and Prime, they're probably like the nicest equipment. Yeah. That's kind of like your Nike, Adidas, and I don't know, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's kind of up there. Yeah.
So I've always been a fan of Atlantis, but then I've been one of those people that have never really got on with Watson very well. Like, I've never actually, because the movement's just not smooth enough for me.
Yeah.
I guess it's person dependent, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I know is it the Atlantis hack squat? That's supposed to be perfect. That's supposed to be incredible. Yeah. I think that's the thing with like MuscleWorks was like that. Like, you go upstairs and it's all legs upstairs. They've got 5 hack squats, like 6 legs presses, and you're like, it's like it's a kid in a candy store again. You're just like, oh shit, I even need to look. But that's the thing, when you have a logbook as well, you kind of just stick with the same one sometimes to progress with that, which you should do.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, actually, same when you go back to the training right now, don't be afraid to, like, if you've got 2 lat pull downs that are slightly different, do like a session on one and a session on another and find which one feels best.
Yeah.
But actually, and then potentially that's when the training program can start. And that's the same as, I guess, what you've done. I'm like, for the first kind of 4 weeks of their training programs, we've got them in place, but I'm like, I just want like feedback from them. Yeah. I'm like, cool. So like, is this working well? How was this movement? Was a lying leg curl okay? Do we need to potentially just switch that to a seated leg curl because the connection's better and things like that? And that's what it is. I'd probably say for the first 4 to 6 weeks is honestly just fine tuning training programs.
Yeah.
You don't need a new training program ever, really. You just need to get a more effective one.
Yeah. That's it. It's just testing as well. It's just like that. I've had a client who's been on his training plan for 4 weeks, and he was saying, "Oh, when is it going to change?" And I'm like, "Well, your training plan doesn't need to change. It's only been 4 weeks. Like, you haven't even started to progress in it yet." And he was like, "Oh, right, I thought it changed all the time." I was like, "No. Like, nutrition will as we go through the process, but you don't need to change. You really, really don't." And it's, like you said, it's all about testing at the start, getting used to what works for you. I mean, I think with like a chest press movement, like a chest press machine, I've always worked better with a contraction on a bit more of a decline rather than straight forward. And it's just things like that. It's all person dependent, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And this all comes down to, like, I've had the same thing. I've had a client on a training program now for like 48 weeks, the same one. And you're like, the only reason a training program needs to change is, number one, if you feel like you're bored a little bit.
Yeah.
But even then, it's just like, cool, let's just take this out and put something else in. Injury and potentially recovery. They're the only reasons a training program should train, or you're not progressing certain movements. But then it's not the plan that changes, it's just the movement. But it's just like, it's like you say, 4 weeks is just like, you're just getting used to it. Like, It's real stress. Like you haven't even like 4 weeks. You've only ran. I'm guessing you're the same 2 week rotations for people. I'm like, you've only just finished technically. Like you've only just finished like that second rotation properly.
That's it.
And also in my head, I'm like, well, how many exercises are there? My imagination's not that good.
Yeah. I mean, there could be, well, there is like thousands and thousands of exercises. I mean, I've been quite lucky because the majority of mine train from home anyway. Like they train from home like way before lockdown because they were quite self-conscious of going into the gym, and they're like that typical older woman that like it feels a little bit shy, a little bit scared. So that's absolutely fine. I mean, we've just kept it from home throughout the whole process anyway. But again, their training plan stays the same even though they're at home. Like it doesn't swap and change all the time.
100%. That's it. And it's just, that's it. It all comes, and you can still progress with all that sort of stuff. That's the thing. Like, it's like if you're doing lunges, I'm like, cool, it's just going to be potentially one more rep. That's all it is. You get better at the tempo, you get better at the technique, you get better at connecting to the muscle, everything. There's so many ways to progress. It doesn't need to be weight all the time. Like for me, it's like the same thing. If I can get one more rep on the same weight and I can keep doing that until like a rep range is met, I'm like, that's brilliant. Then you increase sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then as soon as technique goes, like, okay, cool, let's get the technique there. Boom. Yeah. And it's the same, like in my logbook, I have one of those like multicolored pens.
Yeah.
So it's just like, so it's like green as if the weight's gone up. I think I have red if it's technique.
Yeah.
And then what's the other color? Blue. And then blue's like just plateau, stayed the same.
Yeah.
So then it's just like that.
Organized.
Yeah, I said, but that's just like OCD. But then it's kind of like, it's just, you just know then. You're like, okay, cool. So then this needs to stay the same weight this week. And we just need to focus on like the technique or getting the movement moving easier.
Yeah. Logbooks are great as well. I mean, that's another thing we can kind of touch on. And like logbooks should be used if you want to progress. Like if you're following your logbook from what you did last time you did that training session, you've just got to aim to match or beat. And then you've got that minimum expectation for that session. And it's such a good way to make the most out of that next session, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And I think as well, when you train on your own, your logbook's almost like your training partner. Because then it's like, you did 8 last week, so you need to do 8 this week, or a better 8, or potentially a 9. Yeah. So it is kind of that. And especially when it's like anything in black and white, as soon as like you have a to-do list in black and white and it gets done, sort of thing. And it keeps you accountable. Like accountability, I think people are like, oh, I like, even like, this is like completely, but like, oh, I need a coach to keep me accountable. I'm like, no, why don't you just take accountability for yourself sometimes? Yeah. Just start writing things down. And like, if it doesn't get done, I'm like, well, it's your fucking fault, isn't it? Yeah. Sort of thing. And that's a great thing about a logbook. It just gives you that structure. You're not going into a session that's like, oh, what do I do? It's the same reason for a training program. But like, same, I get my training program just from my coach on the, I was about to say on the TV, through email. And but then I just write it down in a logbook. Yeah. So he doesn't need to see, he just needs to know that progress is being made through the logbook. Yeah. And that's it. And at the end of the day, if I'm not getting better, or if I'm not getting stronger, I'm not getting bigger, then that's on me. That's not even on him. It's not his fault. Yeah. Because the training is like, training's training at the end of the day. That's it. Who is your coach now? Dan's still coaching me. Yeah. Oh, is he? Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Dan's prepping me. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's nice because it's a very easy relationship, and that's how coaching should be. Yeah. I think I always used to think sometimes you're a bit of a dictator, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like if I get a client and they're like, oh, I'm doing this exercise, I was like, oh, why are you doing that? I didn't tell you to do that. But actually I'm like, it's the same variation. It works better for them as long as I'm communicating very well with them. And in a sense, as long as the rep scheme and the training method's there, that's fine by me, really. Yeah. As long as they're progressing with it, that's absolutely fine. So if they're doing like, if I said to them to do a machine press, but they're doing a dumbbell press, I'm like, okay, cool, this is fine, but just make sure you can recover, because obviously a dumbbell press is potentially more demanding. Just make sure you can recover. If you're progressing, that's absolutely fine. If it feels better and you get a better connection with it, stick with it. It's fine. All I'll do now is I'll potentially just change that into their training program, and I'll just highlight it like it's their change. Yeah. And that's it. Like real straightforward. I think that's like developing as a coach as well. I mean, I've definitely relaxed a lot more from when I first started, like years ago, PTing.
I'm before, like back in the day, I was like, you do it or you don't, like quite strict. But
Yeah.
you figure out your niche, don't you, in the clients that you work with. Now I'm like, well, you've hired me for a reason. This is what I'm advising you do. It's completely up to you if you actually do it or not. But
Yeah.
if you do follow that advice, you will get the results that you want. If you
Yeah.
don't, you won't.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how I look at my coaching now. I don't know about you and how you actually coach, but
Yeah, that's it. And I think it's been very straight up at the beginning, like pretty much like that. If you say that, you're like, so you can be like, well, remember that conversation we had like when we first started,
yeah,
and things like that. As long as you're very clear about how you function as a coach and things like that, like at the end of the day, like I'm going to give my mission is to educate you and give you the best knowledge possible, so
yeah,
you can realistically. I don't want to work with you forever. That isn't the mission. My mission is to educate you so you can go and do this and potentially like progress on your own, really.
yeah,
And if you need me, I'm always here. But that's it. It's just that I think it's the same thing. I'm like, you just realize at the end of the day, like if it, don't get me wrong, if it's like a fat loss phase or the dieting for a photo shoot, it's like something a bit more like that, then you're like, right, these numbers do need to be met. It's like boom, 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 black and white. It's very simple. But even in a gaining phase, if you just want to get a little bit leaner and you want to pack on more tissue, real straightforward. Follow this structure, and then just make sure it's flexible, really. That's it. Like, cool, go out for dinner, but then maybe tomorrow just pull the calories down by 200 so we just don't, and things like that. Just keep it really relaxed at the end of the day. Like, because most people don't function that well when they're being like ordered to do something.
Yeah.
As long as you're like, cool, a bit lenient here, but then you're quite firm, it's fine. That's it. Yeah.
I think I'm one of the few that when I have a coach, I need to be just do this.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's just the way that I am. Like I prefer being just told black and white what to do, and I'll just do it. But
And
yeah,
that's
everyone's different.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it's just down to personality and being in the industry as well, because you can have that switch.
Yeah.
It's the same for me. It's like, right, like for example, dieting phase starts, cool, boom, 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 everything gets monitored. You tell me what to do. I don't care if you starve me to death. I'll probably do what you tell me to do.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And that's all it comes down to. But some people do like that, because I train a bunch of like trainers as well. And they kind of like, it's funny because some of them actually like the flexed approach, quite chilled, quite relaxed, but then their goal reflects that as well.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, cool, you're doing a shoot in 8 weeks, then I've got 4 clients on stage next year. So you're like, right guys, like you like fucking need to do this shit.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's that simple. It just depends on the goal and depends on the individual as well.
Yeah, for sure. How long have you got now till you shoot?
I think like 8 weeks. I got loads of time, really.
Loads of time. You're coming in nicely, to be fair. You're coming in pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I think I got 7 weeks and 3 days.
Hey.
But yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a really nice chilled prep. I'm just referring back to my last one, which was horrific. So this is very nice.
Yeah, I bet you're on a lot more food this time.
Oh mate, yeah, my food's like 3,000 on training day still, and like I think it's like 2,400 on rest days. Yeah.
Dream. I'm still sitting between that 2,000, 2,500 mark.
Yeah.
So I've had to drop mine a little bit because of the different training style now.
Yeah, that's it.
Doing Metcons, it's like burning up to like 1,000 calories sometimes in your training session. I mean, well, that's what it says on the watch. It's not necessarily accurate, but
yeah, but it's consistent. Yeah, that's it. And it just comes. That's the nice thing about training wise. I've done it. Like probably this last check-in and this check-in with clients, it's like I don't need to change anything really. Like the only thing we're looking at is gym workouts. Nutrition I don't want to touch because the training intensity is going to be much higher.
Yeah.
So actually we're going to get a really nice response for the next 2 to 3 weeks and potentially onwards.
Yeah.
As long as calories are being utilized correctly, that's absolutely fine. Like there's nothing better than doing a check-in where you're like, don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to have that conversation as well, because it's like, yeah, I'm not doing anything to your training, nutrition, nothing. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think some people see that as like, oh, you're not changing anything. I'm like, no, because that means you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
So always see that as a positive. If changes don't need to be made, that means you're adhering to the plan. You're ticking off the boxes that need to be ticked.
Yeah.
And that's the best position to be in.
Yeah.
Because if you're continuing to drop body fat on 2,500 calories, for example, you're getting stronger. You're like, well, job done. Like, that's it.
That's
Simple.
that's something I struggled with at the start when I started online coaching. I felt bad because I felt like my clients was like, oh, he's not changing anything. Oh, I'm paying him. What's he actually doing? And it's like you said, it's a good thing. It is a good thing if nothing's been changed. It doesn't have to change every single week.
Yeah.
You're on track if we're not having to change anything. And that took me a little bit of a while to stop feeling like bad, if that makes sense, that they were feeling they wasn't getting the money's worth, but they are.
Yeah. But sometimes you have to take it back. Like I remember just in off season, like I checked in every week as normal with Dan and things like that. And I don't think we touched anything for like 5 months.
Yeah.
So when you're like, I'm paying someone for 5 months, but it's not even so much that, because like there'll be that one day where I text him and he'll be like, just do this. And you'll be like, that was worth £1,000.
Yeah.
Like just that one quick response. And it's the same thing. It's like, I don't have an app system, so I just WhatsApp clients all the time. So they'll text me in a day or something like that, and I'll reply back to when I can. Yeah. And they're like, oh, like, they'll send me a video clip of them training. I'm like, cool, just drop your elbow a little bit more. Yeah. And then they do it and they're like, oh, fuck yeah, I can feel that sort of thing. But then that's it. And you're like, things like that is like, it's almost priceless.
Yeah.
So that's it. And I think as soon as you're investing into yourself, it's a good thing. Like you do the same, probably. Like everything that I buy, do, or eat is back into me or back into the business. Yeah. And that's how you should see, and that's how you should see your own training. It's like you're investing. This is your time. Yeah. That's it. That's why I have someone else do it for me, because that's my thing, and I want someone to take control of that.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. What's your opinion on like meal prep companies? Like touching on that note.
Yeah, I actually work with one company where I'm affiliated with Fresh Fitness. Yeah, they're good. Like that. It's pretty straightforward actually. You kind of just, so for example, if a client wants to use their stuff, I can send their calories over to them, or vice versa, and they can pick how many meals they want to have, what foods they want to go into it, and then it's sent over in the night and it's delivered to the doorstep every morning.
Decent.
Yeah, but I think they're only in London based, so only kind of, but yeah, they work. That's really good. I think if you've got the money, cool, like go for it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like I'm more just take control of my meals myself, because like sometimes I'm like, it's like, what did you put in it really? Like I'm a bit like that. Yeah. So I'm like, is there olive oil in there? Will I get fat? So no, I just like to take my nutrition into my own hands, really. But I don't use an oven. I use a microwave and a frying pan.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, that's it. So
simple guy. I mean, I've used them before, but it wasn't necessarily the price of the meals. It was the fact that the meals that were being prepped were only like 300 to 400 calories. So I actually had to have like 6 or 7 meals from that company. That's what made it expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't mind cooking either. Like I'm a guy that, a little bit like you, I need it to take 5-10 minutes, and it needs to be on my plate ready to eat. But I don't mind cooking. I don't mind putting my own seasonings on, etc. But I can see why they can be beneficial.
Yeah, that's it. I think maybe I just don't like. I always think that people like use it for time, but then I'm like, well, if this is so important to you, you'll make the time to cook for 45 minutes every day.
Yeah.
So I don't think time's never going to be the issue, in my opinion, or always fight someone on time. Convenient. But if you want to do it, then cool. But I think, like you say, if you're in a gaining phase, like if I had to do meal prep and I was on like 5.5, like I would be the poorest man in the world. Like
20 meals a day.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I'm the same. I'm a big eater. So like sometimes my last meal or like pre-workout meal could be anything from 800 to 1,000 calories. So like I don't want to have like, I just want to have like just calorie dense foods, and all that is just like bagels and jam. Do you know what I mean? So I don't need a meal prep company to do that.
Yeah, Cocoa Pops.
Yeah, that's it, and it's that straightforward. But yeah, I think they have their niche of people, 100%. And potentially, if you are like dieting or something like that, and you maybe like, this is when you may be going deeper into it. If you're maybe in your last 5 weeks before a show, or you're doing a photo shoot and you kind of just want to have that pressure taken off, you might do it. Yeah. But for me, I'm like, well, what about if this wrecks the look? Just because I'm changing, that's it. Because obviously that's when digestion plays a massive point and things like that. What about if like my tummy goes all bloated and things like that. So
Yeah, that's it.
I think personally, just save your money and just maybe or just fucking pay someone else to do it, to be honest, what you'd save maybe.
Pay your mum.
Yeah, I would love to do that sort of stuff, to be back in my life more.
That's it. But yeah, I mean, we've gone off on a bit of a tangent there. Time always flies when we
Yeah.
talk to Brandon. Always flies. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on, buddy. I'll put his details down below again. So if you are interested in prepping for a photo shoot or stepping on stage, Brandon is your man.
Gracias, senor.